This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
Yo, welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. We are your hosts. You can call me Truck. I'm joined as always by Shane O'Mac and Kulz. You can find us on Twitter at fantasy_trucker, at Shane S. McCormick_FF, at Kulz_sports. Make sure you follow the show while you're at it, at Fantasy Roadshow. We are live on all platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, we're there. Go check us out at Fantasy Roadshow. As always, this episode is brought to you by Rule One Proteins. Go to www.rule1proteins.com. There you can find all the industry-leading protein supplements. You name it, they got it. Go check it out if you're looking to get back in the gym or just re-up your supplement game. They're the best in the business. Boys, how we doing? Shane, Kulz, it's great to see you guys.
Yes, sir.
Doing well.
Yeah?
Over my sickness, so I'm back to normal.
You sound great, buddy.
Yeah, much better. While I was in my COVID sickness, I told you guys, I messaged you that Kulz inspired me to start rewatching Sons of Anarchy. So I have started that for a second time now, which is awesome. I've forgotten so many good parts of that. So Kulz, I'm curious though, how many tidbits about the show do you know? So do you know like that Jax in real life is a British actor with a British accent?
No, I don't know much, I guess.
Oh, you didn't know that about him?
Yeah.
Charlie Ham, is that his name?
Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
Hunnam.
So right. He's British. Like, and he had said like when he finished Sons of Anarchy, like he had to hire a dialect coach to help get his normal British accent back because he had been so ingrained to this and to the character.
Yeah. That's funny. A lot of actors actually have to do that after their roles, prominent roles where they speak a lot. And I forgot who off the top of my head, but there was one that was really interesting. It happens, but yeah. That's a great show.
And then the writer and producer of the show is, I'm blanking on his name now, that had his eyes taken out in jail.
Otto
is the writer and producer of that show.
Good, because he's a badass in the show.
Yeah.
Kulz was giving me shit because I said my favorite character was Opie, and he's like, dude, how he just died. He wasn't a badass. I've been waiting for the moment where it made sense that he was your favorite character. So he encouraged me to rewatch it because Opie apparently is.
Yeah. When you said he was your favorite player, I'm like, oh, Opie's like right-hand man to Jax. He's about to be a badass. Like, this is gonna be awesome. Like he just had
a lot of potential. That's all.
Well, yeah, he was always like on the cusp of his breakout or like waiting for him to do something cool. And then it was just always like kind of him getting shit on by the club, and like he was like loyal to Clay for too long, who's just a huge piece of shit. So I don't know. I do like the show a lot.
But
I don't like they're never on top. They're just always dealing with shit.
Yeah, that's the struggles of the TV shows. There's always something to grind for.
Yeah, but like at least like Peaky Blinders, like those guys are like killing it at times. Like they're not always just fighting out of shit. And it's just the Sons of Anarchy might as well have been a fire department and not a mechanic group because they're just putting out fires nonstop, putting out fires.
I hear you.
But it's good. I like it. It's very entertaining. Definitely like one of the better series. Like, out there. But
I'm still stuck on Better Call Saul. I got one season left, and it's finally starting to get very similar to Breaking Bad, and they're introducing all the old characters. So I'm enjoying that very much. But I'm glad we can talk some pop culture before the episode. I always enjoy that with you boys. But so let's talk. There's been some updates on coaching. The coaching carousel is kind of making their final stops. Washington finally hired Dan Quinn. And what was the other one? Seattle hired Mike McDonald.
Mike McDonald.
Yeah. All right, and so Shane, as an assistant, they hired McDonald, and then I think as the assistant head coach is Virgil Joseph. Is that right?
It sounds about right.
Let me look.
Shane, what do you think about Dan Quinn? You have experience with him, with your fandom with the Cowboys. He's been the DC there for quite some time, and I thought, he was eventually going to get the head coaching job. We've been talking about this for season after season after season. And what do you think there? How do you think Washington's going to do with Dan Quinn at head coach?
I just don't understand in this day and age, like Washington with the number 2 overall pick, it's going to take either Daniels or Drake May, like how you hire a defensive minded coach for that important of a pick and that important of a development. I mean, if it was me, obviously they couldn't get Ben Johnson, but my next choice would be throwing the money at Slowick from Houston to come in and develop an offense that would cater to one of those 2 guys.
Yeah, that's a great point. Kulz, what do you think?
Washington. Well, I was going to just say that Leslie Frazier is who I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
So Seattle brought in McDonald and then assistant head coach Frazier, a guy with some experience, probably teaching them just like how to be a head coach.
Yeah.
So I think that was outstanding for the Seahawks, but Redskins, sorry, Commanders. I just don't really think Dan Quinn is sexy in the first place, but like it just kind of seemed like a safe, basically what Rivera already was, but younger. I don't know. I mean, that's maybe just kind of the type of football team that they want is apparently defense first, but think of all those assistants they had back in the Gruden. Was that Jay Gruden? Was he the head coach with LaFleur? That whole list of guys: LaFleur, McDaniel, McVay, Shanahan. Anyways, they have all those guys in Washington, and they can't seem to figure out this head coaching position. It seems just weird. But I don't know. We'll see.
I think it will hurt Dallas more than it will help Washington. I think there's 2 things can happen. I think their defense of Dallas could take a step back, but I don't see a huge big jump for Washington.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because, like, you're right. This is an important developmental stage for the Commanders as a whole. I literally always say Redskins in my brain first, but it's like for them to take the next step as a franchise and either be a contender or just be on the right track, you need to develop the young quarterback or need something. I don't know. I would have gone like Vrabel or one of the young offensive.
Yeah, so that's a great segue because we have a couple coaches that are surprisingly not getting a job this season. Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, and of course Bill Belichick. So they're kind of out there in limbo. I'm not sure what they're going to do this season, but I'm excited as a Bears fan because Eberflus is on his last leg. So if he's out of town, bring in Vrabel or even Belichick. I wouldn't care. Pete Carroll, any one of those 3 would be better than Eberflus in my opinion. So
or Ben Johnson.
I mean,
or Ben Johnson. Yeah,
I think
Slowick. You know what I mean? It's Ben Johnson and Slowick staying with their teams. That's huge for Detroit and Houston, man. They're that's gonna bode really well for them in the beginning of next season. I like where they're currently standing at.
Yeah. So I was saying Vrabel because you have a team and an identity that's kind of lost in the Commanders. He's a guy that can establish a culture and kind of bring that kind of fresh start, but someone who has done an incredible job with the Titans. His resume is, outstanding, played for Belichick. So I think he would have been a good decision for the Commanders if they didn't go young offense and went that defensive route, which they went Quinn. But the Bears situation, like, I just got to hope Eberflus works out. And I think it's more about Waldron, and I think Waldron's outstanding. So I don't know. I kind of don't even think about Johnson or Slowick for the Bears position anymore because, like, Waldron is in that same bucket for me as like young offensive coordinator. So if they bring in Caleb and, he's working with Waldron, the offense does good, but the Bears just don't really take that next step, then like Waldron's got to be the guy. You just don't want to be back in a situation where you draft a young quarterback and then year one, he learns a Waldron offense, and then year two, he learns, you're just repeating history. So
and that's a big problem in the NFL in general. I don't think past 2021 there's a single offensive coordinator that's still with their team. So it's that's something that the NFL is dealing with teams being so good that offensive coordinator is going to get a head coaching opportunity or vice versa. So
these guys who are successful is Shanahan, McVay, and Reed. Like, we would say those are probably three of the definitely top five, maybe the top three coaches in the league. And those are play callers. Those are guys that are offensive geniuses. So, you probably hired Waldron to be that. He's done an incredible job with dog shit Geno Smith. He's got a really good resume. He's young, and he makes quarterbacks look really good, puts them in high efficiency throw type situations. So like, to me, you have your offensive guy, you have to stick with him and hope that works. Eberflus, like, he's whatever, like, his defense was good last year. So
yes, it was.
If he can win over the locker room and kind of establish a disciplined team, then he's done his job. So we'll see.
All right. Well, what about Matt Canada? He's officially the offensive coordinator for Pittsburgh. Did we talk about this already last episode?
No, not Canada.
I'm sorry, not Canada.
Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith.
Yeah. I don't want to even talk about him. So if you guys have anything to say.
I just think it's a good move for the running game. I mean, Pittsburgh, they're a running team, two great running backs, and I think it bodes well for Najee and Warren next season. I'm just a little worried about the development of George Pickens and Kenny Pickett. They're going to go into next season with Pickett. I think it's probably the right move with how young he is, and he's shown somewhat progress, but I don't know. I'm not too hopeful for that offense in general.
I don't think anything. You said it was good for the run game. I don't think it's good for anything if I'm a Steelers fan. I think you're just bringing in someone else that's going to suck just right after Canada. Like, there's going to be a target on any OC's back that steps into Pittsburgh because, as we said before, their championship defense, you need to figure out how to be competent on the offensive side. And you're bringing in a guy who just failed as a head coach. He's shown a little bit of success, but he's not good.
It didn't make sense to me because you had such a fire for Matt Canada that you bring in somebody that just failed, and it's like,
that's right. Well, exactly what I just said. Strange. Like, he's going to have a target, like that position is going to be under a magnifying glass, and you brought in a guy has a bad reputation right now. I don't know. It's really stupid in my mind.
All right. Well, that's enough coaching talk. Let's get into some tight ends. We want to introduce a new game that we are developing, and we'll be rolling out on further episodes. And this game is called Man Behind the Wheel. And this is where Shane will develop or pick some players, and we're going to pick. Or Shane, do you want to talk about it since you created it, and I don't want to butcher it?
No. So this will just be I'm going to give some clues to who this person is. So it's going to be a tight end, since this is our tight end show for this episode. But going forward, it'll be different positions. Follow us on Twitter or the X at Fantasy Roadshow. We'll be posting more of these throughout the week. But let's get into this episode's man behind the wheel at the tight end position. Okay, gentlemen, this tight end, he had 7 top 10 tight end finishes in PPR leagues this year.
Jonnu Smith.
Okay, all right, take it easy. Go ahead, finish.
Okay, he was also tied for second amongst tight ends in touchdowns this year.
Okay.
And your last and final clue is he has been a top 12 tight end the last 2 years. So recap, he had 7 top 10 finishes in PPR leagues. He was tied for second in touchdowns amongst all tight ends. And he has some consistency to his name. He's been a top 12 tight end the last 2 years. Who is our man behind the wheel?
Kulz,
Wait,
are
we going to do this? No. Are we going to do this to where we switch off? Like, if you get it wrong, I get to guess, and we'll just go back and forth until
we can. Yeah, okay.
Okay, you go first in our first installment.
I'm going to guess a hometown tight end.
Fuck, that's Kmet. What I was going to guess. I was going to guess Kmet as well.
Cole Kmet?
Yes.
Is wrong.
Oh, no. All right.
Okay, Kulz.
Okay, all right. Kulz, what do you got?
7 top 10 tight end finishes in PPR leagues.
I know PPR, like you stress.
Tied for second in touchdowns. And been a top 12 tight end the last 2 years.
I just don't. I think I'm going to be wrong, but David Njoku.
David Njoku is wrong.
Oh, all right.
Can't look at your screen.
Oh, I can't look at my Okay, all right, fine.
Well,
I was just looking at the rankings. I'm looking at the rankings.
You can look at those. You can look.
Yeah, that's all I'm looking at. I'm not looking at any stats or anything.
Because I had Sleeper pulled up. Like that's how I've been doing the rankings episodes. Is I have Sleeper 2023 stats up and been referencing.
Yeah, I'm simply just looking at my. I'm just looking at my rankings. I'm trying to go through the names and try to pick out someone that fits the description. So, I am going to guess. I'm just going to say George Kittle.
George Kittle is not correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I wasn't confident in that one. I wasn't.
The guy that I have, I just don't think he scored touchdowns this year, which is my issue.
Oh, I have a new guess. Okay.
I have a new guess too.
Look at his eyes.
I have 2 guesses this year.
You can't make 2 guesses.
I know. I'm going to make one, but I'm going to choose the one that I had the enlightenment at the same time as you. Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz is not correct.
Okay, here's my answer.
Yes.
Hunter Henry.
No. It's a good guess, but it's not correct.
Not top 12. The other one I had didn't have touchdowns this year. Evan Engram.
Evan Engram is not correct.
Yeah, he has barely scored this year.
This is making our show look incompetent.
I may have went too tough.
This is not a good look right now. This is not a good look right now.
Yeah, this is bad because I'm not going to be able to find it.
While you guys are thinking, I'm going to give you one more clue here. Then this clue, I think, will give it away.
Okay. It's my turn to guess. So
he also had.
I think I know who it is.
He also had 5 games where he was outside of the top 30 tight end finishers of the week.
I think I know who it is, and this is going to make me so mad at Shane.
Go ahead, Kulz. I'll give you.
That laugh just fucking absolutely sold it. Taysom Hill.
It is Taysom Hill.
Oh!
I had a
click.
I was just like, this motherfucker.
I don't know how I didn't think of that. The touchdowns. Oh man, that I'm mad I didn't get that, but good on you, Kulz and Shane. Nice job. That was
such a troll for. Yeah, such a troll for Shane O'Mac to have Taysom Hill, who I just don't even think about as a fantasy football player.
Exactly.
So
that's awesome.
You knew I was going to be tripping.
I think the crazy thing to me was when I was looking it up is like 2 straight years of being a top 12 tight end. And then the 7 top 10. I mean,
okay, so All right. So knowing those things, do you recommend to fantasy players through our roadies that you should roster him every week? Like start Taysom Hill every week, because throughout the first 13 games of the season, he's going to have a top 10 finish 7 times. Like,
I know my recommendation, but Shane, if you want to answer the question.
No, you can't. No. Because
okay.
you're trying to pick those weeks.
Then? Try to pick the weeks, but that might even be worse than just auto starting him, because you're going to hit some and you're going to miss some, and you might not be over 50% on your personal,
For me, Taysom Hill should not be drafted. I think Taysom Hill should be on the waiver wire. And if you're one of the teams that is not
top 12 last 2 years,
I understand that, but
so this is why I just don't even look at him as an actual option.
I get that, but for me, if
he's top 12 the last 2 years, but don't draft him, and if he's hot, then pick him up, because you may get lucky and start him once when he pops. Like, it's so stupid. Fuck
if you're the
fuck you too, Shane.
If you're the team in your league with the worst tight end situation, or if your tight end was like Mark Andrews, where he got injured right away, and Taysom Hill should be rostered in that sense, but on the bench, and if he's your best option, and he's clearly good at scoring touchdowns, and he's utilized as an X player on the team. If you're in a bad position in your league with tight end situation, he should be on your roster, just not started.
This is what you should do. If you play best ball, then and you have a Saints stack, add him into the mix super late.
That's a good one.
Other than that, fuck Taysom Hill.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Shane, I love that. What a way to start the segment. That was great. That was great. All right. Are we only doing the one
game anymore?
Yeah, I knew this one. I knew this one was going to take a couple of rounds, so I only did the one for this one.
God. Oh man, that was great. All right. Well, we are here today talking way too early 2024 tight end rankings. We're going to go ahead and pull that up here and get into the mix. All right. So, no shocker here. Kulz, you have Dalton Kincaid as your tight end 1. I am not surprised. You did end the episode last week with a teaser saying that Dalton Kincaid would be your tight end 1. And Shane and I both have Sam Laporta, and you have Sam Laporta down at 4. So why don't you talk about that quick discrepancy right there?
I mean, I'm just kind of trolling with Kincaid, but I can spin it into him being the tight end 1 if you guys really want me to.
Just put yourself in the shoes of, let's say we're drafting right now. Are you really taking Kincaid as the tight end 1 over everyone else?
I don't have to. I'm going to take him as my tight end 1 in a round where I know I'm going to have value.
Okay.
So I'm going to draft Kincaid and Pitts guaranteed this year. They'll be on every team of mine because I think there's going to be a ton of value on both of them, unless the Falcons get there's a huge overvalue because they bring in Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins or someone like that, and then their fantasy values all get skewed. But I think Pitts will be undervalued to where I have him finishing next year. So, out with Arthur Smith, in with who is it actually? The guy from the Rams, Zach Robinson, I think his name is.
Yeah.
So in with Zach Robinson, like I'm going to be all over Falcons players because, they burned some people this year. Arthur Smith's gone, whatever. I think there's going to be value there. So I'll be all over Pitts and Kincaid. I just think like he had a great season. Another off season, his second year step up is going to be huge with Josh Allen, who's going to be the number 1 player in fantasy again next year. Diggs may be on his way out. If not, he's certainly getting older. We already talked about that in the wide receiver rankings. So, Kincaid is right now going to be maybe the best option on that offense. Or just for my argument's sake and my spin zone that I'm going to sell you guys on, he is the best option on one of the best offenses with the top fantasy football scorer in the NFL. So End of story.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And I do think there's a chance that he could easily be the tight end 1 at the end of the year next year. You know, that's,
I mean, like
his
game could be, 7 to 8 receptions a game for 70 to 80 yards and touchdowns, 10 plus touchdowns. So I can see him being one of those guys that has 100 plus receptions, 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, and that would make him the tight end 1.
My only concern with him is, so we had a sample size of the first 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and then a sample size of the last 5 weeks. When Dawson Knox is playing, like he was like tight end 23 or 24, and then he was like tight end 32 at the end of the season when both of them are on the field and playing, and they're running 2 tight end sets. And now
that's more than just Dawson Knox being injured and coming back. Like in that same time period, you had a change in offensive coordinator. The team is kind of figuring. I'm not worried about it just because of what we saw in the playoffs. And like Dawson Knox is not the pass catcher that Kincaid is. Yeah. So that's like the only, again, spin zone. Whatever. I love Kincaid. That's why I'm at 1. So I hear your reservation there. That 4 to 6 spot is probably where the industry consensus will be. Yeah. And I think I just like the value on him at that spot, even, still. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think,
do you guys know
Kelce's getting older? Laporta, he'll probably be the number 1, which I'll almost guarantee he doesn't end up number 1 just because of the way tight ends are. I guess they are kind of repetitive, but I don't know. I'm just not a huge Lions guy. I guess they'll have Ben Johnson back, but they had a great season. Second straight season of, exceeding expectations. So I think you're due for a stinker. I just don't think that, I don't think they're going to win the division. It's going to be one of those things where it's just not their year. Things aren't going their way.
Makes sense. I love Sam Laporta from what we saw this year. And I do think they build on that from next year with Ben Johnson. And I think Sam Laporta does finish as tight end 1. That's why I have him there. But I'm the lowest on Kincaid. I could probably bump him up to 5. But for me, I can't put him too high until Dawson Knox is out. And I was going to ask you guys, off the top of your head, his contract situation for Dalton?
He's locked up still.
Yeah, so the earliest that they can get out, they would get out. They have an out after the 2024 season. So
okay, so next offseason they could part ways.
Yeah.
Then so at that point, I will definitely have him in my top 3 when Kincaid is the only one there. But Knox gives me a little bit of reservation. So. But Shane, you have Kyle Pitts down at 13. Mike has him at 3. He did talk about him a little bit. I have him at 9, so kind of in the middle. Do you want to talk about Kyle Pitts a little bit and why you have him so low?
So for me, it's 2 things. It's going to be all about the quarterback, who they bring in. If it is the same status quo, if it's Ritter, whoever, if it's Ritter backup,
there's
literally no way.
Then that it's just going to depend who is brought in. Is it Justin Fields? Boom, I'm bumping him up pretty high. That's gonna, if it's Kirk Cousins.
What about a rookie?
Same thing. A rookie he'll come up a little bit more, yeah, for sure. The other thing I don't like about Pitts, and it could change with a new offensive coordinator for sure, is he for the last 2 years has had either the top or the second highest ADOT of all tight ends. So he is just getting he's not getting any of those short area, easy targets and catches that are key for PPR leagues for tight ends. He's going on these long, and a lot of that is because they line him up as a receiver. So maybe they change that with the new coordinator, but he doesn't give you that consistent catch base for short area targets they could get from a lot of other tight ends.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, having 90 targets is impressive with how bad of a season that he with, generally the consensus is a bad season, but 90 targets, 600 yards, like that's a decent tight end season. So I do think it improves, and I realistically have him too low from where I expect the Falcons to go with their offense. So I'm more on Kulz's side than I am Shane's. With the Kyle Pitts take, and depending on who the quarterback is, I just think it's going to be an improvement regardless. And Pitts is just too talented not to have a better season than he had this year. I could see him beating his year one targets. He had 110 targets, so that's only 20 more than he had this year. I could see him having over that. Sam Laporta had 120 targets this year? Yeah, so I could see him being in that range, and if that's the case, he's probably going to be somewhere near the top 5, top 6, that range. So, all right, let's see what else we got next. We all have Trey McBride at 2. No surprise there. We love Trey McBride. Kulz and I could not stop talking about him in the offseason, and boom, what happened? He got his chance, and he just absolutely ran away with that job. And I love everything about Trey McBride. He's a beast. Kulz, I know you love him as well. If you want to talk about him a little bit, and why I think we are higher than consensus from the industry. They probably have him down around 4 or 5. But what do you have to say about Trey McBride?
I just think that he's going to be one of the. I mean, we saw what he could do with a high target share this year, and I think that kind of remains the same. In an offense that's only going to be better this year with Kyler back in form and, Marvin Harrison or whoever ends up, going there. So I don't have much to say. I think we already saw his potential, and that's just he's going to realize it because he's such a good pass catcher.
Yeah, for me, kind of the reason why I have him at 2, it's just what his capabilities, right? So we saw games with 14 targets, 10 receptions, 95 yards and a touchdown, 9 targets, 131 yards, 102 yards. Like, not many tight ends in this league are able to get to those numbers, and he's shown numerous times that he is. So I think he deserves to be over someone like Mark Andrews, who, on a consistency basis, he's at like 5 receptions, 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He has the touchdown upside, but he doesn't really have those games where he's just absolutely game breaking like Trey McBride. So, Shane, do you have anything?
And I think the 2 things I like is Kyler Murray looks to the tight end. He targets him heavily. And 2, I think he's got an obvious room to grow this year in the touchdown department. So we only had 3 this year. So I could see that easily getting to, say, 8, even, 8 to 10 even maybe. So you've got a nice room for touchdown improvement for him easily that he should capture on top of that high catch volume.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, let's go to Travis Kelce. Shane and I both have at 3. Mike, where do you have Travis Kelce now?
5.
5. Okay, so that's not too far down. Do we think he's done? Do we think he's hit his cliff? What do you guys think there?
I don't think so. I think, there was a lot of talk about, a down bad year for him. 2 things, like he still was tied for the highest points per game amongst the position at 14 with Laporta. He was 2nd in receiving yards.
Yep.
And then more importantly, just when I'm watching him in the playoffs, he does it when we're just purely talking about redraft rankings. He still deserves where I've got him at. Obviously, it's a different conversation in dynasty leagues, but I think he could be close to what he did this year, at least.
Yeah, I mean, he had a down year, but he still had 121 targets, 93 receptions, 900 yards. It was his first season not hitting that 1,000-yard mark since 2016, 2015. So just been on an absolute tear, and he had a little bit of a down year, but still had a good tight end season. So a bad season for Travis Kelce is still a good season in general. So I think he builds off that. I think he has a better season next year. If he doesn't retire, that is. Yeah. What do you think, Shane or Kulz?
Kelce?
Yeah, just a quick recap on Kelce before we move on.
I don't know. I just included him in the top 5 out of respect, but I could see him retiring if they win the Super Bowl.
I know that's kind of where I'm at as well. Because Jason Kelce hasn't officially made his announcement. I think they both make the announcement together if Travis wins the Super Bowl, which I think is going to happen. A little spoiler there, but
that would be ridiculous.
I see. You just added into the ranking.
I would not like that if they did that, but yeah, I mean, it seems like Kelce's seems to like the spotlight, so I think some of that might go away to a certain extent if he's no longer playing, and he gets like a desk job. I mean, look at Gronk. Like, we still see Gronk, but he's not spiking footballs and all over the headlines anymore.
I just think it's a little different because of how successful their podcast is. It is legit one of the top podcasts in the world with the whole Swifties jumping on the bandwagon. But I mean, if you have that, you just have a path to doing something football related, talking about football, discussing stuff, and I think with that available stream, it makes it more enticing to retire. That's all. So
yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's all about how he feels physically. So he might have another couple years left in him where he kind of just picks his spots, which is what it seemed like this year. Like, he kind of went away for a little bit, but now late here, like late in the playoffs when they need him and the team to step up, and every game, win or go home, he's stepped up massively. So, it might be one of those things where as long as Mahomes is there, he has a spot, he's always welcome, and he kind of just coasts a little bit during the regular season and then turns it on late. I could see that as well. So because of that, I have him in my top 5.
I could also see a situation where if he does retire and then comes back mid-season towards the end of the season, unretires to join the playoff.
I'm gonna go on record saying I don't think Kelce retires.
Okay. All right. There it is. All right. Let's move on a little bit here. We have who do you guys think we should talk about?
What I did see though is that Taylor Swift, it was like $331.5 million she's made for the NFL this year.
That's insane.
And the Chiefs, which is just, her influence is crazy. You know what? The other thing I was thinking about Taylor Swift that is just so crazy to think about, like, obviously Jason Kelce's famous in Philadelphia and, a little bit outside to the football world now in general. But before that, he's just a, blue collar center for the Eagles. Right. And he has 3 daughters and they're of age to where they probably are they're going to remember life. At least I know one of them's older, like 6'5". I don't know their exact ages, but they're, toddlers. And then they know their Uncle Travis, cool uncle, funny Uncle Travis. And then he starts dating the biggest celebrity pop star in the world. Like, think about it from these girls' perspectives. Like, holy shit! Like, our aunt is about to be Taylor Swift.
That's insane. Yeah,
you know what I mean. I thought about that this week during that whole just Kelce being in the box, and them potentially being sister-in-laws. Like, that whole conversation. Like, imagine being the nieces that are now going to be flying private everywhere the rest of their lives on vacation, going on tour, having backseat. You know what I mean? Like, crazy that they were already probably the cool girls in school because dad is a Philadelphia Eagle. Well, guess what? Aunt is Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Did you see that whole thing about Taylor Swift actually gravitating more towards Kylie instead of Brittany Mahomes?
Oh, I could see that 100%.
Yeah, because Kylie's down to earth.
She
seems like a your standard.
Yes,
it's a no-brainer, but let's not.
No brainer.
Let's not.
We don't need to be talking about.
Yeah, that's too far.
All right. Well, let's get back to the rankings here. Shane, you have Evan Engram the highest. You have him at 6. I have him down at 10, and Mike, you have him at 8. So Shane, What did you see from Evan Engram this season that you liked? I know it was very scarce of him to score touchdowns.
But he's tight end 2, I think.
I mean, I don't know what's not to like. I don't know why the consensus isn't higher on him. Like 114 receptions. He led the league in targets.
The only 43 targets.
That's ridiculous.
Tight end 2. He does need to have a higher I need to be higher on him. I agree with that, Shane.
The only thing lacking was his touchdowns. And so when you see a case like that where a guy has only I think 2 or 3 touchdowns, in my mind, I see that as an opportunity this next year where that doubles and he gets to say 6.
He ended up with 4 this year.
4. Okay. So if he goes to 6 or 7, and now you're looking at, there's some talk maybe about Ridley not coming back or Zay Jones may not be in there, which frees up, but even with a lot of those guys, even when Kirk was playing before he got hurt, he was still seeing a high catch volume with Kirk, with Ridley. So I'm not too concerned about that. I just think he creates mismatches and is a target that is looked at often there. So,
yeah, I just moved him above Andrews and Njoku. It's hard for me to move him any higher just because of the names ahead of him. Like we just talked about Kelce, he's either going to be there a little bit higher or significantly lower depending on what that situation is. Which we're not going to know until probably spring training or not spring training,
training camp.
Until training camp. So I don't know. I mean, like Mark Andrews, I don't want to just bounce right away from Engram, but I moved him in front of Andrews because I don't know what his situation is going to be with Likely. Are they both going to be
That's a great talking
field? But yeah, Engram is, I think the Jaguars, I'm still a believer in Trevor Lawrence. I think he was dealing with a lot of injuries. And the team is still, one of the better teams in that division. So I expect to bounce back from them. And he's clearly been targeted 143 times last year, tight end 2. It's going to be hard to, look away from him. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be moving Evan Engram up in my rankings as well. And I agree with you. I think the Jaguars have a better season next year than they did this year. I think they show improvements, and it's going to be hard for him to have more than 143 targets. So that's pretty incredible for a tight end. So
the touchdowns, like Shane says, the thing that goes up, and we thought another perfect example of a guy who was, burned a lot of people last year, Trevor Lawrence. We thought his touchdown numbers were going to improve last year. They didn't. This is probably the year they do. So that's someone to look back into, if you're a believer in his talent. And if you are, then Evan Engram is a guy that you're going to be all over with that narrative, at hand. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. Shane, I am shocked. This is my Shane shocker of the week. You have Jake Ferguson the lowest.
Shane O'Mac, shocker of the week.
You have Jake Ferguson the lowest at 10. Mike, you have him at 9. I have him up at 8. So we're all very similar. But Shane, what's going on with Jake Ferguson? I can't believe you are the lowest on him.
Shane O'Mac, I'm going to step in for Shane. Well, I just think that the Cowboys are going to have a horrible year next year.
Well, it's 2 things. So, one, the guys in front of him, it was hard to jump in front of him. And 2, we see on this team, the tight ends kind of make a little bit bigger jump in their second year. So they spent second-round draft capital on Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan last year in the draft. I don't know if in the second year that he doesn't get on the field more and take away some potential targets and catches from Ferguson. As good as Ferguson was, it's hard for me to see a second year in a row where Schoonmaker just does not see the field at all. When you spend a second round draft pick on that position last year. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, there's a lot of things to like about him. Like he's in a similar position as Laporta, like where the whole offensive scheme, personnel, play calling is the same as last year. Nothing's changing for him, which is a good thing. It's just a concern. Is he definitely, again, the primary tight end target?
Yeah. I liked what I saw from Ferguson. I liked his involvement in the offense. I think Dak went to him quite a bit. I mean, he had over 100 targets, only had 5 touchdowns, which I found surprising. I would have thought that would have been around 7 with I thought how much he scored, but yeah, only 5. I like Ferguson. He's a young tight end. He's going into his 3rd year, and I think I personally don't believe that Schoonmaker is going to be eating into his playing time. I think Ferguson has that job on lock, and I think he has a better fantasy season next year than he did this year.
So I'm trying to see like what the difference is, like who you guys have got in front that I don't. So you've got Engram behind him.
Yeah, well, I did say that I was going to move him up, and okay. When I saw Kulz move him up, I was going to tell Kulz to move him up to about 7, in front of Kittle behind Kincaid. So that's kind of where I would have Engram currently. I did overlook some of his production this season, so that's on me. But I would definitely move him up to 7 personally. But Ferguson, I have above Kyle Pitts, which I talked about moving Kyle Pitts up depending on what quarterback they get. But I think he should be ahead of Schultz, Goddard, Kmet, Musgrave, and all of them personally. So he'll be on the fringe top 10.
Okay, so you've got him ahead of Kmet then. Okay.
Yeah, I have him over Kmet, and that's a great guy to talk about next because, Shane, you have him up at 7.
Let's talk about the Ravens because we're getting away from Mark Andrews.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. You did mention, which I thought was a great talking point, Mark Andrews and his usage next season with Isaiah Likely kind of having a little bit of a breakout year this year. And I personally do think that Isaiah Likely is going to be that second tight end where you're going to see a lot of him next year. They're going to probably be running 2 tight end sets. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. I think Isaiah Likely earned a role in that offense next season that's going to be pretty prominent. Mike, what do you think?
I want to hear what Shane thinks first.
All right, kick it over to Shane.
I don't think it's going to be the same Andrews we've seen as in the past as far as usage. But I don't think it's I'm trying to think of a scenario example with another team where it's a big split or anything. I think Andrews is still young enough. He's younger than Kelce that he still, I think, is going to see enough production to be what I've got him at 5. So,
yeah. So I don't like any of our answers yet, and I don't have the answer either. So I don't like my answer for this. Like, I think this is going to be very important for fantasy next year. Likely, in my mind, is a better receiver than Mark Andrews. Like, he is a better ball catcher and yak than Andrews. So how are they going to keep him off the field?
That's a great point. I would agree with that statement as well.
So, like, this is going to be something we're going to need to figure out. And this is going to be like one of those, if you can be on the right side of what happens with this situation, you're going to be better off for it. So does that mean you're going to full fade the Ravens, or I just don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. So it's way too early. That's why these are the way too early rankings. But that's going to be something that we're going to have to figure out, right? Because you're not going to draft Andrews top 10 and then there be more of a split than we think, or top 5, then there be more of a split than we think, and then you just wasted a 6th, 7th round draft pick on a tight end that you're maybe not going to start every week. I have a lot of shares of Andrews in Dynasty, and I don't think he goes away. He was he was top. He still might be a top 3 Dynasty tight end. Like, think he's 28, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's 28. Like, I just don't know. Is that an offense that's going to run 2 tight ends out there often?
Well, for me, we saw a lot of Mark Andrews' elite production. 2021, he had 154 targets, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then 2022, 113 targets, 800 yards. We saw a lot of that because the Ravens just didn't have capable pass catchers. They were one of the worst wide receiving cores in the league, and that is not the case anymore. Zay Flowers, we saw this year, he was really, really good on this offense, and I think he is going to be a bigger piece of this offense next year, which kind of cuts into that Mark Andrews elite production. So with the development of the offense,
so I think we can all agree that Lamar's never going to be a 300-yard passing type quarterback. So then do you just fade the entire Ravens receiving core? Probably.
Yeah, I see your point.
If Andrews, Likely, and Zay Flowers all have to eat, and then you're going to have another receiver out there that needs to produce in order for them to really just have a good offense. So, in order for four guys to produce at a fantasy level, you need to have a Jordan Love type season where you're getting 300 yards a game, So I don't know that Lamar's ever going to be that kind of a quarterback. So maybe it's a full fade,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I don't know. We're going to have to figure that out, but that's going to be something key, and being on the right side of that going into fantasy next season is going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to what we were going to be talking about before was Cole Kmet. Shane, you have him up at 7. Mike, you have Cole Kmet down at 16.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have him up at 13. So Shane, this is another shocker of the week where you have the lowest on Jake Ferguson, but you're the highest on Cole Kmet, and I'm over here as the Bears fan. So tell me why I'm too low on Cole Kmet. Sell me on that.
So I think one way or the other, the passing game's going to be better. I think it gets better with I'm going to say Caleb Williams is going there. And so the passing game is better, even though he's a rookie. Now, right now, I consider him the number 2 receiving option on the team. Could that change if they bring in a free agent or with the number 9 draft pick? It might, but right now I'm considering the number 2 receiving option on that team. I think he had some big games. I think he was over 700 yards. He was 4th or 5th in red zone catches for the year amongst the position. So he's looked down in the scoring position, down in that red zone area, which is good for a tight end. So I think if there's no big changes brought in the receiving department, I could see him jumping to 850, maybe 900, even yardage wise. So,
for me, I see what you're saying. I don't think the Bears go into next season with their wide receiving core staying the same. They will either draft a rookie or bring in a free agent. They will improve that wide receiver 2 slot behind DJ Moore. And I think Cole Kmet had a great connection with Justin Fields. So if Justin Fields remains the quarterback next year, and I will probably be moving Cole Kmet up. But in the case that they draft a rookie and bring in another wide receiver and we have a new offensive coordinator, I just don't think Cole Kmet is going to end up kind of where you have him. I think he'll be down more in the 10, 11, 12 range. And I have him down at 13. I could probably move him up a little bit, but I'm pretty comfortable with where I have him currently.
Yeah. So for me, it's I agree with the point of Justin Fields and him had a great chemistry. He's a great tight end. Like if we're talking about best tight ends, I have him in the top 10, 100%.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But I don't know. It's the uncertainty of like, what is it going to look like with Caleb Williams? It could look a lot better. It could look a lot worse. I just don't know if I'm going to be taking a shot on that.
And he's
I don't know.
He's one of the tight ends that doesn't have another tight end really biting at the chomps behind him. And he's healthy. He stays healthy. Cole Kmet has played 17 games each of the last 3 seasons. So he stays healthy, and he is the only tight end on the team that will be producing. So, I mean, with those two factors in there, I don't know.
So it's just the uncertainty of what it's going to look like with Caleb Williams. And I think that this is what I really want for the Bears. I want to take the Mooney. I want Curtis Samuel to take the Mooney role and then them draft. I just don't want to get excited about Neighbors. That would be insane.
Oh my God.
But I think it's probably, I would draft a Odunze or somebody with that 9 pick. So if you have, a young wide receiver too, and Curtis Samuel in there, I just don't know there's enough to go around for Kmet to be. He's going to get touchdowns. And he's going to be a force in the red zone, but I don't know that he's going to be like a yard monster, which would a lot of these guys in front of him I have as those types of players. So the uncertainty, but I could probably, bump him above Freiermuth, Schultz for sure.
So what I'm curious. So let's see. The number 2 receiver for Chicago, Mooney. I don't know what his catch mark was. Was it 50 to 60 maybe? So I don't know. Do we see if it's Odunze or Keon Coleman? Are they going to be higher than that? Dramatically higher than that?
Yes. Because the offense is going to be so much more pass focused. Like, I think you're going to see Caleb step in and look at Geno's numbers. Like, that's the Waldron offense. Geno is slinging the ball. Now, is it DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? No, but like DJ Moore is that good as a wide receiver 1. And then if you bring in a Curtis Samuel, he's experienced. He has a lot of chemistry with DJ Moore, and he has proven to be great whenever, he has the ball thrown his way. I just think the offense is going to be different.
So let's say best case,
looking at pass targets, it's going to be more pass friendly because Caleb Williams has the arm talent of Patrick Mahomes, not Justin Fields.
Well, base case scenario is it's like a Houston Texans from last year where their rookie receiver is doing what Tank Dell did, and DJ Moore is a little better to catch volume than Nico Collins, but then they had Dalton Schultz then as their tight end.
Yeah, it just depends. I don't know. We didn't see any tight end in Seattle really take off. Font was in the mix, but he wasn't, breaking records for any. I just think Cole Kmet is a great tight end. He's going to be continue to be such a great run blocker and sealing the edge, and he's a reliable, good receiver. But it's just whatever the offense, I don't know what the offense is. It's just the uncertainty for me. That's all I got to say. It's too early to speculate what the receiving options are going to be. And quite frankly, I think we've been talking about the Bears offense for too long.
We can keep talking about them. I can talk about them all day. We will actually be talking more Bears here in the next few episodes. So we'll save it for then. What do you guys think here? What's next? Oh, how about Greg Dulcich? Mike, you have him at 12. Yeah, I do not have Greg Dulcich, and neither does Shane. So
that could have been a mistake of mine, an oversight of mine.
Me as well.
I just love his talent, and he was injured all year, so people forgot about him.
Yes,
I'll be drafting him in every underdog league, guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I will co-sign that as well. We drafted him all over the place, and he would have had a great season. We saw what Cortland Sutton did in the red zone and stuff. So I like Greg Dulcich, and that was one I completely forgot on. So
I think the last thing that we should talk about is Musgrave Craft.
What about Hoeckenson?
And Hoeckenson. Let's talk about Hoeckenson real quick, and we'll end.
Shane, you have Hoeckenson at 11. Mike and I do not have him on our rankings. And Mike, do you want to speak on that? Because
I left him off. I sold truck on it.
He did.
I saw Dr. Jesse Morse, who I'm sure we'll have on the pod here in the next, few weeks leading up to the draft. But According to Dr. Jesse Morse, his conservative estimate of Hoeckenson is week 8 or 9. So if that's the case, then he gives you 4 weeks of the regular season in fantasy, and like, I'm just out. I wouldn't start him that first week if I owned him anyways. I don't know what the Viking situation, what their offense is next year. I probably will have them finishing last again in the division. So because of all of those things, I'm out. But yeah, if it's week 8 or 9, which again, way too early rankings, we're going to know more about this injury leading up to training camp, so it'll be clearer. But if he's not out there until week 8 or 9 conservatively, then I'm just out.
Someone to look at if you're potentially in a playoff run in the fantasy playoffs, and he could come in week 9, and as a keeper, or just if you don't have a great tight end and you know that you're going to be making the playoffs, having him come in and secure the championship for you, because Hoeckenson is elite tight end. And if the Vikings are in a good spot, if Kirk Cousins comes back, I could see Hoeckenson being a league winner at the end of the season in the fantasy playoffs when he does come back from injury. So something to keep, again, way, way too early to be talking about that, but something to make note of. That's all.
Yep.
All right. And then Kulz, what were the other 2 you wanted to talk about?
Musgrave, Kraft, that whole situation.
Yes.
I'll start. I think Musgrave's an awesome pass catcher. I think Tucker Kraft proven he can have production too. So like, are we going to have 2 highly producing tight ends in that offense? I think there's so many weapons for the Packers, and they're like trying to figure out where everyone fits. Like, you think about everyone that had a significant role this year: Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, obviously the big 3, but then you still have Wicks. Melton came on late in the season, which he probably goes away, but Wicks is there to stay. So there's 4 wide receivers guaranteed, and then you have Musgrave and Kraft. So just a lot of mouths to feed in a young offense. Do they take a step forward or back this year? I could see arguments for both. So I don't know. That's just a lot of mouths to feed. I love Musgrave as a pass catcher, so I kept him.
I do too. I like Musgrave more than Kraft, and I'm shocked that Fantasy Pros industry consensus has Tucker Kraft ahead of Luke Musgrave. They don't even have Musgrave in their top 16 there. And
that could be pretty sharp though, because LaFleur seemed to yell at Musgrave a lot. And if there's him visibly on the field yelling at Musgrave, it's because he's missing assignments and is not like learning the offense well.
Yeah.
So it's like that could go one way or another. It could be he just doesn't grow up and learn the offense, and he's developed slow. And at some point, his talent, regardless, he's just a liability. So that could be the case. But I don't know. I'm interested what Shane has to say.
Well, I was just going to look. Like, I feel like if they're both equal, I think Musgrave's going to get more of the snaps, more of the routes. I think, he was getting it before he got hurt. And then when he came back in the playoffs, I was going to look and see, but I feel like I know in that Dallas game, which was his first game back from injury, he outproduced Kraft and was, then I think in the divisional round, he'd outsnapped Kraft. I think Kraft is more the blocking tight end. I think,
which is what the concern might be for them both, to be able to produce in an offense. Not only do you have 6 mouths to feed, but you're not going to be on the field the extent. Like Kraft still showed that he could catch balls. So it could be one of those things where Kraft's on the field a good bit because A, he's a better run blocker, but then B, he knows the offense better. And then C, he's still a capable pass catcher. But you're still going to bring in Musgrave because of his ability to catch and run after the catch. So, that could be a situation where it's like that hurts both of their values, Good team, but I don't know. That's kind of where my view of it is.
It's definitely probably the deepest receiving team from wide receivers and
they all hit. Yeah.
Yeah. They look like they're in a good spot. For sure.
To be honest, like Christian Watson may end up being the odd man out there. if Reed takes another step forward, Dobbs continues to be sure-handed, and like Watson, like talent's there, hasn't stayed on the field. He's going to have to catch those big balls that they throw to him. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, that offense this next year.
Yeah. And then just to wrap this up, someone I wanted to talk about was Michael Mayer. I do think he has some potential next season. He is probably at this point in the season, this point in the offseason, he's probably going to be one of my tight end sleepers. I think Michael Mayer is a very talented tight end. I think the Raiders offense improves with a better quarterback next season. And he's just someone to keep an eye on. I just had to include him in my top 16 just based on potential. I think he has a better season than some of those bottom tier tight ends. So just as a sleeper, I just wanted to mention I do like his upside next season.
Yeah, another guy with no tight end competition at all on that team. And I mean, it's just Adams and Jacoby Myers at the receiving end. So yeah, he could definitely take a step up.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about does it for our way too early 2024 tight end rankings. We appreciate everybody watching, listening. Make sure you like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Go check us out on all the social media platforms. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. And what do we have coming up next, Mike? What can the roadies expect from the road show?
The Fantasy Trucker is going to be in Austin, Texas this week for the Super Bowl.
Yes, I am flying out on Friday to go visit Mike over there in Austin, Texas. We're going to be together watching the Super Bowl. Going to be producing some content for you guys. All of that will stay secret until it comes out, but expect some more stuff from the road show here coming up in the next couple weeks. Episodes will drop every Monday, and then we may have a surprise live on the weekends about the Super Bowl reactions, stuff like that.
Shane O'Mac, Truck and I were looking, and we're thinking about surprising you for the NFL draft to a trip to Wichita, and then we saw how difficult it is to get there.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not driving 11 hours to go to Wichita from Chicago. Kulz doesn't have any one-way flights to Wichita, all connecting. So
yeah. We'll see what happens by then. But we were thinking it would be cool to have like a draft reaction show. But yeah, it's a little difficult to get.
Yeah, Wichita is not a direct flight destination.
I surprisingly, Chicago does have a direct flight to Wichita, so I could definitely do that. Maybe Kulz comes into Chicago and then we fly out together to Wichita. But
no,
that's
I can fly to Dallas and go, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we should eventually do something like that, especially for draft. That's a big time. And I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I'll be on the lookout for that. Other than that, after the Super Bowl here, we're going to be getting into Dynasty rankings. I'm excited to talk Dynasty. I know, Shane, you don't have too much experience in it. Kulz and I, just this last season, we really dove into it pretty heavily. And it's a really fun part about the offseason. So,
Shane O'Mac, let's plug we're going to do, as we mentioned, some listener leagues. So one of those being a dynasty league. Shane O'Mac, is that going to be your first official dynasty league? Are you going to join that one?
Yes, 100% I will be, because I delved into it last year with one of my leagues where they kind of did this like
keeper
putting their toes in, and it was an eight person keeper. So it's like halfway between keeper, halfway between dynasty.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get
different.
A full-blown dynasty where you get a full-blown off-season of work.
Awesome. So we're gonna all three of us will be in that then, right? Truck, you're gonna be in it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna be looking for 9 roadies to join. So hopefully we can get our boy Danny Cousins in there, so we have some international talent. And we'll have gotta
get B Cork. We got to get all the roadies in there. Speaking of which, if you are watching this, listening, reach out to us on social media. Reach out to us on our Gmail. It's thefantasyroadshow@gmail.com. Email us. Let us know if you're interested. We're going to have all sorts of leagues: dynasty, redraft, best ball, guillotine. You name it, we're doing it. And if you want to get in early, survivor pools, confidence pools, stuff like that. We're going to be messing around with a lot of different formats. So if you're interested, reach out to us, secure the spot now. We're going to be talking about it all off season. And it's something we're really looking forward to. So
yeah, I think that'll be the first one. I think maybe in like March, we get everyone just kind of locked in, and then, draft is going to come around. The NFL draft's going to come around. I think we do our draft pretty soon after that, right?
Yes. Yeah. It should be,
it'll be like
a week or two
early
after
May.
the NFL
We'll do like an early May draft is what we're going to be targeting for our dynasty league. So yeah, maybe, in March we start reaching out to people and see if we can start filling some slots and then be ready to go.
Yeah. That's about it.
Other
than that,
the roadies are gonna know our rankings for the draft. So
yeah, that'll be a little tough, but it'll just add to the challenge of drafting with the roadies and them knowing where we have everybody stacked up. So
it is what it is.
Be fun. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Other than that, again, we appreciate you guys watching, listening. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Again, this episode is brought to you by Rule One Proteins. Go to www.rule1proteins.com. Check out all of the stuff they got available on their website. They're the best in the industry. They got the best protein, different types of protein. They got supplements, nutritional products. Go check them out. You won't be disappointed. We have an affiliate link. Best pre-workout. We got an affiliate link coming soon. We will drop that as soon as it's available.
Best creatine.
Yeah. Any other bests over there, Kulz, that you got?
Best everything.
Best everything. All right. We appreciate you guys very much, and make sure to buckle up.